wondered how Germany, this powerhouse in the heart of Europe, actually came to be. It wasn't a peaceful merger or a simple treaty. It was a saga of iron, blood, and sheer political genius. Let's rewind the clock to the early 19th century. What we now know as Germany was a chaotic patchwork of over 300 states, all part of the Holy Roman Empire. It was less a country and more a giant, dysfunctional family reunion. Then Napoleon Bonaparte stormed across Europe, dissolved this ancient empire, and inadvertently planted the seeds of German nationalism. After Napoleon's defeat, the Congress of Vienna in 1815 tried to put things back together, creating the German Confederation of 39 states. But this wasn't a unified nation. It was a loose alliance dominated by two major rivals, the Austrian Empire, the old guard of German politics, and the rising star, the Kingdom of Prussia. For decades, the question hung in the air: who would unite the German-speaking peoples? Would it be a greater Germany including multicultural Austria, or a lesser Germany led by the predominantly German Prussia? The revolutions of 1848 saw a surge of liberal and nationalist sentiment. The Frankfurt Parliament even offered the crown of a unified Germany to the Prussian king, Frederick William IV. But he famously refused it, calling it a crown from the gutter, offered by commoners, not by his fellow princes. The liberal dream of unification seemed to die right there. But the idea didn't. It just needed a different kind of leader. A leader who didn't believe in speeches and majority votes, but in power. Enter the man, the myth, the legend, Otto von Bismarck. Appointed minister-president of Prussia in 1862, Bismarck was a master of realpolitik, a brutally practical and pragmatic approach to politics. He wasn't a starry-eyed nationalist. He was a staunch Prussian conservative. His goal was simple: to strengthen Prussia and secure its dominance, and if unifying Germany was the way to do it, then so be it. In a now famous speech, he declared, "The great questions of the day will not be decided by speeches and majority resolutions, but by iron and blood." This wasn't just talk. Bismarck was ready to go to war to achieve his goals. His first move was a brilliant, if cynical, piece of diplomacy. In 1864, Prussia teamed up with its rival, Austria, to fight Denmark over the territories of Schleswig and Holstein. These duchies had large German populations but were ruled by the Danish king. The war was a swift victory for the German powers. But Bismarck wasn't just interested in liberating Germans, he was setting a trap. The joint administration of the newly won territories was intentionally complicated, creating constant friction between Prussia and Austria. Bismarck knew this tension would eventually lead to a conflict he was more than prepared for. He was playing chess while everyone else was playing checkers. He needed a reason to remove Austria from German affairs once and for all, and the Schleswig-Holstein question was the perfect excuse. The trap was sprung in 1866. Tensions over the duchies boiled over into the Austro-Prussian War, also known as the 7 Weeks' War. Everyone expected a long, drawn-out conflict. The Austrian army was considered one of the best in Europe. But Prussia had a secret weapon: modernization. Under the genius of General Helmuth von Moltke, the Prussian army was highly organized, well-equipped with advanced needle guns that could be reloaded while lying down, and used railways to mobilize troops with unprecedented speed. The decisive battle at Nigritz was a stunning and crushing defeat for Austria. The war was over in just 7 weeks, as its name suggests. Bismarck, however, showed remarkable foresight. He resisted the calls from his king and generals to march on Vienna and humiliate Austria. He knew he might need Austria as an ally in the future. Instead, the peace treaty was lenient. Austria was simply excluded from German affairs, and the old German Confederation was dissolved. In its place, Prussia formed the North German Confederation, uniting all the German states north of the main river under its control. Bismarck had successfully removed his primary rival and united half of Germany. But one final piece of the puzzle remained: the southern German states. These southern states, like Bavaria and Württemberg, were traditionally Catholic and culturally distinct from Protestant Prussia. They were wary of Prussian dominance and looked to another European giant for protection, France, led by Emperor Napoleon III. Bismarck knew that a direct attack on the south would push them further into France's arms. He needed a common enemy to unite all Germans, north and south. He needed France to look like the aggressor. And once again, an opportunity presented itself, this time in Spain. In 1870, the Spanish throne was offered to a German prince from the Hohenzollern family, the same family as the Prussian king. France was alarmed. They feared being encircled by German influence. The French ambassador aggressively demanded that the Prussian king, Wilhelm I, promise that no Hohenzollern would ever accept the Spanish throne. The king politely refused this demand during a meeting at the spa town of Yemes. He then sent a telegram to Bismarck describing the encounter. This was the moment Bismarck had been waiting for. He took the king's telegram, the Yemes dispatch, and edited it. He didn't lie, but he masterfully condensed the language to make the French demands seem more insulting and the king's refusal more abrupt and dismissive. He then released this edited version to the press. The effect was electric. In France, the telegram was seen as a grave insult to their national honor, and crowds in Paris chanted to Berlin. In Germany, it was seen as an unacceptable French provocation against their king, and a wave of patriotic fury swept the nation. Napoleon III, under immense public pressure, declared war on Prussia. This was exactly what Bismarck wanted. The Franco-Prussian War had begun, and France was seen as the aggressor. Just as Bismarck predicted, the southern German states, bound by secret military alliances and swept up in the tide of nationalist fervor, immediately sided with Prussia. The unified German armies were a formidable force. Under Moltke's brilliant command, they were faster, better organized, and more effective than their opponents. They won a series of stunning victories, culminating in the Battle of Sedan, where an entire French army, along with Emperor Napoleon III himself, was captured. The war was essentially over. German forces besieged Paris, which eventually surrendered in January 1871. The victory was total and absolute. The shared struggle and overwhelming victory had forged an unbreakable bond between the German states. The final barrier to unification had been shattered by the common enemy Bismarck had so skillfully engineered. With France defeated and German nationalism at its peak, the time was ripe. On January 18, 1871, at a place dripping with historical irony, the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, the former heart of French royal power, the German princes gathered. They proclaimed the Prussian king, Wilhelm I, as the German emperor, or Kaiser. The German Empire, the Second Reich, was born. It wasn't the liberal, democratic nation dreamed of in 1848. It was a new, powerful, and authoritarian state, forged not by votes but by the strategic brilliance of one man and the military might of Prussia. Through 3 short, decisive wars, Bismarck had outmaneuvered Austria, provoked France, and used a potent mix of diplomacy and military force to unite a scattered people into one of the most powerful nations on earth. The story of German unification is a powerful reminder that history is often shaped not by ideals, but by the relentless pursuit of power. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the past, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more history stories.